Good day everyone, my name is Anne Crystal Lagundi and today I will be presenting my Pecha Kucha on information security. As we move further into 2016, the ability to protect digital assets has become a core competency for any successful organization. So to begin, let's first define our subject. So information security refers to the processes and methodologies designed to protect data, whether print or electronic, from unauthorized access, disruption, or destruction. So it's fundamentally built on the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So this is the DNC email hack. So in 2015, two Russian-linked hacking groups infiltrated the Democratic National Committee servers. So they stole thousands of internal emails and attachments, which were later leaked to the public during the 2016 election cycle. So the DNC, of course, faced major issues. So they used outdated infrastructure, they lacked multi-factor authentication, and had poor password hygiene. Furthermore, the FBI's response to this incident was flawed. They just contacted a low-level contractor in the DNC rather than high-level people. And the DNC staff initially thought that the calls from the FBI were a prank. So the best solution to prevent such hacks is a zero trust architecture paired with mandatory physical security keys. So to begin, let's first define our subject. So information security refers to the processes and methodologies designed to protect data, whether print or electronic, from unauthorized access, disruption, or destruction. So it's fundamentally built on the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So there are five factors that are making us more vulnerable to these types of threats. So first, everything is interconnected. So this means one weak link can compromise an entire network. So for example, a hacker might use a coffee shop's unsecured Wi-Fi to reach a corporate server. So second, we have smaller, faster, and cheaper devices. So this means high data portability. So an example is an employee losing a tiny micro SD card containing thousands of encrypted customer records. So for third, there are decreasing skills necessary to hack. So today, someone can simply download an exploit kit to launch a ransomware attack without knowing how to code. Now for fourth, international organized crime has professionalized hacking. We now see state-sponsored groups like Fancy Bear launching coordinated global campaigns. And fifth is lack of management support. So a specific sample is a CEO refusing to fund security updates because they prioritize short-term profits over long-term digital safety. So not all threats are malicious, so human mistakes are unintentional. So for instance, an HR staffer might press reply all to an email and accidentally leak the entire company's payroll list. So as you can see in the slide, in the workplace, higher level employees plus greater access equals greater threat. So this is also along with other circumstances that could accidentally lead to a threat. So moreover, a famous common human error is one's carelessness. So one can be careless on using a device like going to a computer shop and leaving his or her account open. So another unintentional threat is being a victim of social engineering. So this is a deliberate human hack. So an attacker might call an employee, pretend to be an IT support, then trick them into giving up their passwords. So while mistakes are accidents, social engineering is a calculated manipulation. So there are 10 types of deliberate attacks. So first is what the attackers do. So they do espionage, information extortion, identity theft, sabotage, theft itself, and cyber terrorism. So these are all driven by criminal or political intent. So how do they do it? So attackers often use a software as a weapon. So this includes viruses and worms that require user action. or denial of service, which are DOS. They are attacks that require no user action at all to crash a system. So another case we have here is the Houston Astros hack. So what happened here is that a former Cardinals employee used his knowledge of the Astros internal systems. We're talking about baseball teams, by the way, and his former colleagues' old passwords to gain unauthorized access to the Astros private player scouting database. So this is a classic example of an insider threat. So the perpetrator gained access by guessing the password and exploiting this password to be used. So the lesson here is clear. So organizations must enforce immediate password resets for all new hires and perform regular access audits. Okay, so here are some examples of cyber threats that require user interaction. So first we have the viruses, we have the worm, and of course we have the phishing attack. So examples are questionable emails. So they are mainly viruses that are disguised as messages or phone calls or texts. So we also have the spear phishing attack. So unlike the standard phishing, which sends generic emails to thousands of people at once, so that is the wide net approach. So spear phishing is a precision strike. So attackers conduct a extensive research on their target's habits, social media profiles, and professional role to craft a message that is uniquely convincing to them. So here are some examples of cyber attacks that require no user interaction. So we have the DOS attack and the distributed denial of service attack. So a DOS, or a denial of service attack, is a malicious attempt to overwhelm a machine or network so that it cannot respond to its legitimate users. So a distributed denial of service, which is the DDoS attack, is an advanced version of this. So it uses multiple systems that simultaneously launch the assault. Okay, so now we have the attacks by a programmer developing a system. So a Trojan horse is a malicious program disguised as a legitimate useful tool that tricks users into executing it, so allowing the hidden code to perform unauthorized activities like stealing data. So unlike a Trojan, a backdoor or a trapdoor is a secret entry point built into a system that allows an individual to access a program without going through normal security or authentication procedures. So while backdoors are sometimes left behind accidentally by developers during maintenance, a logic bomb is an intentionally malicious segment of code embedded in an organization's existing software, so that remains dormant until it is triggered by a specific event. So this can be a particular date or the deletion of a specific user from a database. So this is the case of the Ukraine power grid. So what happened in this case? So in 2015, hackers successfully took down parts of the Ukrainian power grid by using stolen credentials to remotely access control systems and open circuit breakers, so leaving 230,000 people in the dark. So in this attack, the UK, they correctly maintained manual overrides, so allowing them to restore the power by hand. However, they failed by using insecure remote access without MFA. So the lesson for all utility companies is to maintain analog backups and their air-gapped critical systems from the internet. So within all these cases, of course, organizations had to do something about it. They had to protect their information resources. So to fight back, they use risk management. So this is the process of identifying risks, performing a risk analysis, and choosing a risk mitigation strategy. For risk mitigation, we have risk acceptance. So the conscious decision to acknowledge a risk. And then we have the risk limitation. So this involves implementing controls and safeguards to reduce the likelihood of a threat. And of course, the risk transference. So this involves shifting the financial burden to a third party. So now we will be talking about the information security calls. So first we have the physical controls. So physical controls, they prevent unauthorized individuals from reaching the hardware. So examples are they include walls, badges, and biometric scanners like fingerprint readers. So next we have access controls. So access controls use authentication to prove identity and authorization to grant permission. So a specific example is an intern only having access to public folders while the manager has access to sensitive files. So next we have communication controls. So communication controls, they protect data in transit. So using a VPN or encryption ensures that even if a message is intercepted, the attacker cannot read it. So along this, they also use firewalls and employee monitoring systems. So for business continuity, so if a breach happens, business continuity planning helps us recover via backup sites. Then auditing then is used to test if these systems ensure if they actually work. So this will be our last case study. So this is the OPM breach. So what happened in here? So the US Office of Personnel Management was breached, so resulting in the theft of 21.5 million records, including highly sensitive background investigation files and of course fingerprints. So within this, the OPM should have encrypted data at rest and used privileged access management. And for its victims, the best steps are to freeze credit and monitor for future phishing. So this case proves that IT solutions are only half of the battle. So we also need a strong management, and of course, we need to have a culture of security. So within all of this that has been discussed, information security is a layered defense involving technology, people, and processes. And as management engineers, it is our job to ensure that these layers are integrated effectively. So that is all. That is my Pecha Kucha, and thank you for watching.